Welcome to the Multifamily Marketers Podcast. I'm your host, Josh Grillo, co-founder here at Resident 360. And I'm also joined by my co-host, Miss Caroline Mills, straight back from, where were you at, Caroline?
I have been all over the UK. I've been in London. I've been in Ireland, briefly in Iceland only for a second. But yeah, it's good to be back. It's been over a week. So I was just telling Josh ahead of time, I'm like, man, it feels weird not talking to you guys for a week.
So you were gone for 1 week. You jammed a lot in if you went all the way over there. Well, again, you reside in the East Coast. So it's not, what is it, like an 8-hour flight to London?
Honestly, that's so funny you say that. We were talking with this other couple from Wales, and I was talking about how big the United States is. And I was like, it is literally quicker for me to get over here than it is for me to get to Napa Valley, California. Like, it is just easier. I took like a connecting flight on the way there, but it was like a 6-hour flight and a 2-hour flight all the way to London versus it takes me like 12 hours to get out of California.
So were you there vacationing? Were you there for a family event? What was going on?
Yes, yeah. My brother got married in Ireland, just below Cork, last Wednesday. So really exciting. We said, hey, if you're going all the way over there, might as well do some other sightseeing. So Matt and I went to London ahead of time, had a great time, walked over 22,000 steps one day. So packed those walking shoes, but saw so many great sights. I think I was most surprised Big Ben is actually really gorgeous up close. Like, it just seems, oh, it's so old, but it's actually very beautiful up close. And then walked all around, ate lots of food, became experts at the tube system. So really like their tube system there. Ireland was great. Wedding went well for them having to like schedule it across the seas, and everything arrived on time. I drove on the wrong side of the road. That was a new experience for me. Don't like roundabouts there. They say Ireland invented roundabouts. Do not like the roundabouts, but we had a great time. Lots of good food. Got to see family. It was awesome.
Sounds like a great time, and we are happy to have you back. Glad to see your friendly face and hear your voice. So, yeah, let's jump into today's theme, which we're really diving more into reviews. I know we've talked about reviews in the past. We've gone in depth in some of the earlier episodes on reviews. But they are making a pretty massive impact right now when it comes to Google, when it comes to search, when it comes to AI. So we thought the theme of this episode will be, how multifamily teams can really effectively ask residents for a review, because that's still kind of a big deal, right? You got to ask for reviews to get them. Mm-hmm. How you can create a property-wide culture around reputation management and improve Google business profile rankings, local SEO, and all that good emerging AI search stuff that's happening right now. So, Caroline, I know you are the expert in this. You are, the review lady. Have all the answers, reviews. So let's dive into it. Where do you want to start? Is it more? Should we jump right into asking for reviews? I mean, is that kind of a good place to start?
Yeah, let's do a quick little overview. If you have the time, I would say go back to, I believe it's episode 2 we have, where we really talk through a renter's journey and all the different places to ask them. But I do want to touch base. If this is your first time, really getting to feel about it, I think sometimes it can feel awkward asking for reviews, or does it feel natural for my teams? And it really does. There are ways to be very authentic, and we kind of talk about that, after successful maintenance is done, after a renewal conversation. But truly, I promise you, the biggest hurdle is just asking people. And it sounds so simple, but I will say 9 times out of 10, someone says they leave a review, it is because they were asked to leave a review. We've all been asked whether you have purchased an item and you get a review, whether you visit a restaurant and they ask you. I think we're all very used to it, and it's not abnormal to say, oh my gosh, I loved your event today. And then for them to respond, I'm so glad you loved our event. Would you mind leaving us a review on Google? If they are really happy, they're going to say, absolutely, I would love to. And they're going to give you that experience. Fun fact, you never have to ask for the negative reviews. Those come automatically, but you do have to get good at practicing and asking for those positive reviews. And we're going to kind of dive into why.
What is how about some examples of good times to ask for reviews? So like an example, somebody comes for a tour, right? Somebody tours your community. Mm-hmm. Should you ask for a review? I mean, they're kind of like a prospect, right? But do you ask them for a review because they're not a resident?
I love that you brought that up. And actually, I'm going to give my own experience here. Yes, definitely ask them. If you have someone who has like a standout tour and they just have a great experience with you, absolutely. And I did this myself. I'll say I'm in the industry, so I'm a little bit pickier, but everyone has heard we're moving down to Florida and we were, touring all these different places. There's one that we didn't end up renting at, but I went back and left her a review because she was so fantastic. We didn't rent there because of the neighborhood area and like what we were really looking to be near and what we needed. But she was fantastic and she really sold the place. She was so great. I mean, what she remembered about me and followed up with me on. And so I ended up saying, like, wow, we didn't pick this place because of where the area we ended up wanting to live in. Like, I loved my tour with her and it was a great time. So absolutely, regardless, there's different reasons. It doesn't mean someone doesn't like you because they don't end up renting with you, but they may have liked you and your property and your tour, and absolutely asking them for the reviews. That's a fantastic one. Residents, you have so many touch points after a good move in, after a renewal, when they come to a resident event. When my favorites are kind of like the very easy, simple ones. So someone walks by your office every single day and goes get coffee with their dog, and then they go on a walk around the community. You see them doing that every single day. Clearly, they like doing it every single day. So you say to them when you're getting some coffee next to them, and you say, I noticed, how's your coffee this morning? Do you love the coffee? And they say, oh my gosh, this is my favorite. I love this creamer you guys have in here. And you say, actually, would you love, we would love for you to leave us a review if you have a moment. So taking those times that are very natural, it's not like somebody just walks up and you say, we need reviews, like give us a review. But taking those times, it's really natural and it makes sense for people. I always say we kind of talk more about following up, like always following up on them. But absolutely. A lot of great touch points for a prospect, a vendor. We talk about that with our teams all the times. Your vendors are there and have great relationships with you as they do service for you. Absolutely. Vendors and, there's different developers that come through communities. There's different management companies, like absolutely people who have a great experience.
So it's really all about people that have a great experience. It doesn't have to be limited to just residents. And I think that's part of the thinking, right?
Yes.
It's like, you get so stuck on, got to be my residents, but you can, think a little bit outside the box and you open it up more. Now you have a lot larger pool of people that are more than likely willing and happy to give you that review.
Absolutely. It only takes a few minutes, and especially like tying them to a certain experience that you're with them at, like getting coffee, like the dog park. You can kind of strategically do that in a way where it's, again, we'll kind of talk about this, but we've said it before, like they're putting in those keywords that are going to help in your Ask Maps. They're going to help when people are searching you. So if you're at the dog park and they love the dog park, be like, oh my gosh, would you please tell us in a review how much you love coming to our dog park? And they're going to say, yeah, absolutely. Now you've got keywords in your reviews about your dog park.
Okay, so that kind of leads me to the next question. Like, how much does that really matter, right? I mean, again, we always talk about reviews and you got to have reviews and you got to keep reviews fresh and coming. But being very specialized on those reviews, you mentioned dog park, right? And talking about that in the review, like, does that really matter?
Yeah, good question. And I can see why somebody asked. They say, okay, it's great. I see I have positive reviews, but it truly does make an SEO impact. We'll kind of dive into GBP first, but Google is really going to prioritize business with a higher review volume. So someone versus one review versus someone with 200 reviews, you obviously have a little bit more trust there. Your recent review activity. So we always talk about relevancy and recency, having strong, good ratings. And when you see that, what that means is, yeah, sure, you can get some reviews where it's just a star amount, and those always help. But having someone who is talking in their review, they love their experience at the dog park, the staff is super awesome, maintenance is always taken care of on time. The stronger that review is, the more weight it's going to hold for Google. Relevant keywords and reviews. And then, of course, like you responding, being the owner responding. So for the apartment industry, what this really means is your reviews can really improve our chances in Google Maps, your local map pack results, apartments near me searches. I know that one sounds crazy and it's something we bid on a lot in the paid space as well, but anything when someone's saying apartments near me with good dog parks, now somebody mentioned that dog park and it's being brought in from the review to rank you now organically. So, I mean, it's like free advertising that you're getting there basically. And then your branded versus non-branded searches. So it really does impact your GBP being able to pull up over somebody else's and your organic search there.
I do have a question on that. Does it matter? Like you're responding, you as the operator of the property, your on-site teams are responding back to these reviews, positive, negative. Does it matter if you include keywords in your response back?
Good question. They call it keyword stuffing if you do it too much and it looks too unnatural. Like if I said, Josh, loved seeing you at Main Street Apartments, walking around our 232 bedroom community located not far from Wilmington, North Carolina, at our dog park, that just looks silly. Like now to somebody else, they're like, oh my gosh, why are they saying all this? You definitely don't want to keyword stuff. I would say doing it in a way that feels very natural. They've shown that there's not a huge SEO impact difference on you responding with those keywords. They more want the authenticity from the person leaving the review. So it's great to say, love that you loved our dog park. We're so glad to have you a resident, kind of thing.
That makes sense. One question I had on top of that is, what's the easiest way to get, we talked about times to ask for it, obviously, but what's the easiest way to get that review? Is it, hey, like, what are you saying to resident? Hey, just go Google our property and click write a review. Are you, handing them a QR code on a business card or showing them a QR code somewhere on the property? Like, what, in your experience, makes it very, very seamless and easy for that resident, that prospect, that vendor to give you that review?
Great question, and thought about it because I think we've all been in the seat of we've been asked somewhere, but we forget. And we have all the intentions of leaving a review, but we just get too busy. I always recommend my teams to follow up with the link to your actual GBP listing. Make it so easy for them. You want to take out as many steps as you can for someone to try and figure out where to leave your review. If you want it on apartments.com, give them a link directly to apartments.com reviews. If you want it on Google, give them your GBP so that it's going directly to Google. Make it as easy and seamless as you can. I've seen different ones where you can have, an iPad set up in your office. That's okay. To me personally, I wouldn't stop to finish and do a review in front of other people while I'm standing around. So I say, think of it as the person doing it. QR codes are great. I love them at events. We've been at pool parties where we hand out goodie bags and the QR code is on the goodie bag. So again, something tangible in a maintenance request, absolutely. Always leave the maintenance QR code, when you leave the apartment to say you've been there. Make it very easy for them. But I always like direct links or QR codes, absolutely.
Do you like including the link in, say, the signature as well of the property, right? People are emailing, leasing agents and so forth, like, leave us a review at the bottom. Is that good to have, or any opinions on that one?
I don't love that. And that's just a personal opinion. I have no science and data to back that up. In my opinion, it comes off as one, you're inviting negative reviews. Someone has a bad email with you and they're like, oh, well, okay, I'll leave you a review. And they go and click it. You're just making it very easy for someone to leave a bad review. Whereas I don't think someone authentically having a great time with you is going to see that and choose to say it. I think it's going to mean a lot more coming from you if you individually ask versus just saying, see in my signature below. And then it just doesn't feel like you care as much to me.
Makes sense. So let's talk about reviews and AI search now. Yeah. I know it's all evolving and it's all evolving fast, but how should properties be really thinking about this?
So this is a good one, and we're going to pull some cool stats in here from Strategic Marketing Summit last month. Kind of want to first talk about what are they looking for. So we've talked about AI in general is a lot on trust, authority, and sentiment. We've said that in several different episodes for different things. But you really want consistent resident reviews that build your credibility, your brand trust, their experience. So you really want, like we said, those strong reviews are going to mean even more in this AI search. So what we're seeing with this and what we've learned is there's so much competitiveness in these AI platforms, and they're pulling live as far as like what's going on in different places, what it's pulling. So we had a very interesting conversation about AI search at Multifamily Strategic Marketing Summit. And we learned that now, because they're getting so competitive and there's so much saturation in certain markets, that there are new thresholds for even ranking in ChatGPT or in your Gemini. So what I'm saying is, I may go to Google and say, best apartments around me. And the threshold for Google to consider you a good property or a best property is about a 4.2. They did this across the entire country. They pulled all this data. You're averaging about a 4.2 or higher to be pulled in best apartments around me. But on ChatGPT in particular, out of all AI search engines, they found that you could put in the same exact thing. You would say, pull me all the best apartments around me in Raleigh, North Carolina. You had to have an average of a 4.4 or better to be ranked and pulled by ChatGPT. So if you thought your 4.2 sounds pretty great on Google, all of a sudden in ChatGPT, you're not even going to rank for that kind of thing. So we're learning that these review sentiments, one, are they relevant? Are they fresh? Are they filled? Are they good? Sure. But you actually have to have a better review to rank in AI systems than you do on Google, which is very, very interesting. And we're seeing that continue to evolve and shift.
Well, you said consistent reviews. So my follow-up question to that is how much, how often?
We like to say, I think a good number to aim for is 5 to 7. That is very, very doable. That's about 1 a week. Again, you're not going to have to ask for those bad ones, but keep in mind, if you got 2 or 3 negative ones one month, you're going to have to offset that a little bit. So you might need about 10 reviews that month. 5 to 7 is your maintenance level. Very doable. If you've got to kick it up into gear and you're listening to this and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm at a 4.2. I want to be at a 4.4. So I'm raking in these AI systems. Then maybe go for a 10 to 12. You don't want to dump too much at one time because Google could review that as being spammy. It could stop some of the reviews for coming through, or you're going to rise for a moment, but then you're going to crash in 5 months because now you haven't had a new review in 5 months. So you want to do it carefully. You want to play the long game of it, just kind of like SEO used to be, but it would be better to get 7 great reviews a month than 20 now and none for 6 months.
So you really want to build the habit of asking and sticking with it over the long term, right? Don't build it.
Absolutely.
Don't stop. Build the habit of asking and just keep going with it and see what happens. So let's talk about mistakes. So what are some mistakes teams should avoid?
A few of the big ones is don't ask, and I know this is going to maybe sound, obvious, but don't ask an unhappy resident, even if you turned it around and resolved it, because all you're going to go and do, they may end up happy now that their toilet is finally fixed, but it took you 2 weeks to do it. And now they're like, okay, thanks. I'm glad you finally got it resolved. And then you say, would you leave us a review on this great experience you had? They're going to say, sure, I'll say in my review that you took 2 weeks to fix my toilet. So don't take some time. Let's build, all right, we've got them for 12 months or so. Let's build that relationship a little bit better. I would say asking just too aggressively. I mean, just coming at it too hard. I know if you're on site, your regionals may be pushing it, your RVPs may be pushing it. We don't want to bombard people to where it's being a pest, and we stop them every time we see them and we say, hey, we're chasing them down with a flag, will you leave me a review? And then they can't even get into their car safely without us attacking them for review asking. We don't want to blow up their emails. We don't want to send email blast about this. You don't want it to be a constant thing where someone's like, oh my gosh, I was going to, but now I'm not because you won't leave me alone. So there is a fine line with it. Again, no bulk request, especially with no context or anything. You don't want to, we've talked about this before too, no ignoring negative reviews. So there's so much more sentiment and this is anything, in buyers and, people at restaurants, anything. If you see someone have a negative experience and the business responds in a positive way of addressing the issue and concern, you're going to feel better about that business than them just not addressing it at all. So there's just a few little best practices there. And, definitely, like you just said, you don't want to treat this as a one-time review push campaign. You want this to be an ongoing strategy.
So one thing I picked up on that you said is don't do any automatic, like when I think automatic, email blast, you said email blast, right? So I literally written down automatic email drip campaigns, which I can completely see that. Yeah. Hey, love living here. Leave us a review. I can completely see that in a drip campaign. Yeah. But the reality is with anything that's automatic like that, there's really no context, right? It's not personal at all. Yeah. It's very generic. Yep. It comes across as very generic. So that could obviously potentially backfire on you, or just nobody just answers it, obviously.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, let's talk about wrapping this episode up. And for teams that are listening who really want to improve their reviews, let's say starting today, what would be Caroline's biggest advice?
Yes, biggest advice would be start small, take it easy. So you want to focus on, having your customer service, delivering a great experience, asking at those natural moments, making sure your team is fully trained. I know it may be easy, managers, to just be like, go ask people for reviews. But it does feel unnatural if you're not used to it. Do some, role playing together, practice it out, and just make sure they feel comfortable doing it. And then hype each other up. One of my other favorite ones is if you and I were working in an office together, someone comes in and leaves, they're like, oh my gosh, Josh, you made my move-in experience so great. I've had the greatest time. I love living here. And then you're like, oh my gosh, well, thank you. I'm so glad you love that. I can be your teammate and jump in and say, I love that you love Josh just as much as we do. Like, would you please leave a review mentioning your experience with him? And we can kind of bounce off each other. It also makes other people, feel backed up, or they may forget at that time. So just working as a full team together, responding consistently. I mean, I know that's not in the asking in, but it will help your SEO and your AI visibility. And then, making sure you're looking at this as a long-term strategy. So it's great to want to jump up to 4.4 today, but just make sure you can maintain that.
Awesome advice as always, Caroline. Thanks for sharing. And I want to thank everyone for listening to the Multifamily Marketers Podcast today. Please be sure to subscribe, leave us a review fitting for today's topic. And we will be back next week with a new show. Caroline, see you next week.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.